both needed to wake up every morning and look at those bars and realize what they did. According to the state, prosecutors were not pushing for an adult charge, so a jury trial was not a looming threat. A juvenile judge would rule on the case if it were to go to trial, as the intention of the juvenile justice system was to provide care and treatment appropriate to a juvenile, not to assess punitive sentences. A competency hearing was ordered and held on March 15, 2013, where Kelly Murphy was found not competent to stand trial at that time, but that she could be found competent in the future once she'd aged and matured more. The only witness to testify at this trial was Dr. Deborah Bader, the state chief forensic psychologist, who had examined the now 11-year-old and presented a report to the court. Another examination and hearing would be scheduled for 60 days later, but competency questions would be ongoing for the next year. Being found competent to stand trial occurs when the defendant fully comprehends the charges against them, along with how those charges relate to the defense's actions. Finally, after multiple evaluations and hearings, as well as extensive negotiations between the defense and the state, on May 21, 2014, Kelly Murphy, now 12 years old, accepted a proposed plea deal, accepting responsibility for multiple undisclosed juvenile misdemeanors in exchange for dismissal of the manslaughter charge. She was remanded to custody of the Maine Department of Health and Human Services, presumably to a therapeutic foster home, until the age of 18, in order to participate in an undisclosed juvenile treatment plan to include court supervision and treatment. Once 18, an evaluation will take place by the court to determine whether treatment should continue to age 21. Deputy Attorney General William Stokes said that he was satisfied with the outcome and that it was the best that they could accomplish given the complexities of the case and the age of the child. The goal of this, which has been the goal from the very beginning, he said, is that the juvenile will be subject to conditions and to counseling, supervision, treatment for a lengthy period of time so that the issues that she has can be addressed. She's still very young and has a chance to become a productive member of society. The state of Maine said they could not charge Amanda Ward, the adult babysitter under whose care Nicole Greenaway left her baby girls, due to lack of causation. The burden of proof showing negligence was deemed too difficult to show. Nicole Greenaway 100% blamed Kelly's mother, stating that Ward did not do everything she could to prevent her daughter's assault, which occurred with the baby's 2-year-old sister in the same room. She didn't check on her, Nicole says, and she left her baby in the care of a known to be unstable 10-year-old child. In fact, on August 10, 2012, the Department of Health and Human Services would issue a scathing agency review notice to Amanda, stating that Brooklyn died due to her neglect. They highlighted the fact that she knew that Kelly had significant behavioral issues, including ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, and attachment disorder, stating that she failed to follow through on her daughter's required treatments, including properly medicating her. The notice blatantly stated that Amanda did not remove the screaming baby from Kelly's care, and that Amanda already knew that Kelly should not be babysitting other children, but it continued to allow her to do so. The reason that the state of Maine is sure she knew this is downright shocking. As it turns out, just 3 weeks before the tragic and traumatic murder of baby Brooklyn, Health and Human Services had interviewed both Kelly and Amanda in relation to another situation involving 8-month-old Jalen Hopkins, whose parents rented and resided in the basement of Amanda Ward's house. Baby Jalen had been hospitalized in June of 2012 after her mother came home to find her daughter sweaty, pale, and lethargic. Though the baby's father, Chad, was elsewhere in the home at the time, baby Jalen had been left alone playing with 10-year-old Kelly Murphy as she had done before. Kelly had always been eager to offer help, bathing and diapering the baby, and Jalen's parents had no reason not to trust her or any indication that she should be concerned. Shortly after returning home that day in June, Ashley saw her daughter, pale and sweating, begin to seize, and she was rushed to the hospital. The sudden onset of seizures baffles physicians, and she was transferred to Maine Medical Center in Portland. Immediately, it was suspected that some kind of drug interaction was involved, and they pressed Jalen's parents as to what prescriptions were kept in the home. Massive doses of what would be determined to match Kelly Murphy's ADHD medication were found in 8-month-old Jalen's blood specimen, possibly even fatal dosages. There was no way that the infant could have acquired and ingested the medication on her own. Jalen's parents, Amanda Ward, and 10-year-old Kelly Murphy were all interviewed by Health and Human Services and told that Kelly should not be left to care for any other children. A scant 3 weeks later, Amanda would place a playpen and her co-worker and friend's 2-year-old and 8-month-old little daughters in that very child's bedroom, with the presumed intention of leaving them under that 10-year-old's care until morning. In July of 2014, it was reported that Nicole Greenaway filed a 13-count civil lawsuit against Amanda and Kelly, citing negligence, suffering, and emotional distress in the death of her angelic infant daughter Brooklyn at just 8 months old, whose 2-year-old sister was present during her assault and suffered nightmares and other psychological after effects of the traumatic episode she likely witnessed. Greenaway's attorney, Sheldon Tepler, wanted to make sure that the public understood the motivation for this suit, saying that this case is the epitome of a family that needs to see justice. There needs to be some way for their natural feeling of anger to get satisfied, and I see a civil lawsuit as a way to get that justice. When someone comes to me when they've lost a child, it's never really about the money. They've come to me brokenhearted. What they want is justice. By August 15, 2014, it was reported that sheriff's deputies had been unable to physically locate and officially serve Amanda Ward and her daughter, with formal notice of the civil suit. Evidently, deputies from both Franklin and Somerset counties had visited her current and previous addresses. Her then current address of an apartment on Main Street in J, Maine was always unoccupied when they came by. A property on Center Road in Fairfield, Maine listed Ward as the owner, but had been vacant for about 2 years by the time deputies checked for her there. Civil lawsuits in the state of Maine require an official copy of the complaint to be presented in person to an adult at the defendant's address by a sheriff's deputy to be considered officially served. Since attempts had thus far been unsuccessful, a Superior Court judge allowed for formal service to be made by placing a notification in the newspaper in the form of an ad to be run for 3 consecutive weeks. Amanda Ward never acknowledged the ad in the paper. Nicole Greenaway's lawyer, Sheldon Tepler's next move was to ask that the Maine Housing Authority, who held the mortgage on the Center Road property, to release information on the homeowner's insurance policy to determine her possible whereabouts, as well as whether or not the policy could pay out the unspecified damages sought in the case. The court would rule that Greenaway was indeed entitled to that information. The judge then proclaimed that the ad in the paper served as formal and legal notice of service and issued an order that allowed the mortgage company to foreclose on the property and sell it at auction should Amanda Ward fail to bring the mortgage up to date within the next 90 days following October 10, 2014. Coverage of this case ended here. The outcome of the case and official whereabouts of Amanda Ward are unknown. The current age of Kelly Murphy is 15, and she will remain in custody of Health and Human Services until age 18, when an evaluation by the court will determine if treatment should continue through to her 21st birthday. Sleep with the Angels, Baby Brooklyn. Thanks for listening, everyone, and don't forget to check out my podcast buddies on social media and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen to Bears on Film for large hairy guys with smashing accents, BSP, the Idiosyncrasy Files for the believer and the skeptic, and Occulte Veritatis for a bit of the intriguing and the horrifying. See you next week for another installment of Murderous Minors, Killer Kids.